morning. Sunday morning, beautiful Sunday morning. This, I got this from a friend's estate, and I've kept it around because, well, it was a good way to remember him. And I had it sitting way up high on the shelf, and it fell off last night. Came out and was sitting in the middle of the shop floor this morning, so I got to retest that. This is a perfectly pristine, never had a single transistor blown up in it, Texas Star Sweet16dx. It's unmolested. Look at this. It's beautiful. Inside of this thing is just gorgeous. The outside's the same condition, and so is the face. Look at this. Face is just pristine. I put a couple pictures of this up in my Patreon group. By the way, big shout out to the Patreons. Thanks for coming and joining us. If you are a member of the Patreon group, I say thank you. I just kind of said I was going to put it up for sale, and I had a guy jump on it immediately. And then I had another guy who just joined Patreon last night get all excited about this post, and I had to break it to him that this thing has been, well, sold. And he was all bummed out, and I said, but I have an old school big-bodied long, the big-bodied long one, but it doesn't have Toshibas in it. I'll have that coming up for sale, and he got all excited about that. So we're going to do two of these back-to-back. This one is sold already, so I'm not going to say it's for sale or anything. It is sold. The plug, this Anderson clip, it's all corroded. It's the only thing that's the downside to this. So we're going to go ahead and cut this off. We're going to put a new one on, but before we put the new one on, I want to get rid of the 12 gauge wires that are coming out of the back. And I'm going to go to high strand count 8, or not 8, 10. Really super high silicone boot strand wire come out of the back. You guys have seen me modify these every which way from Sunday. And I mean that literally, like every which way that the human brain could possibly modify these. I've stuck 4 gauge, I've had oct gauge coming out of the back. The super high strand count silicone wire like this can carry just an insane amount of current because there's so many wires inside of it, right? And we don't have to worry about it getting hot, and we don't have, you know, kind of got to pay attention to if we're gonna have it in a rub area, but for the most part this stuff is pretty good. This is really, really high strand count wire. This can carry a lot more current than your standard piece of 8. And the same thing can be said with 10. I'm going to use 10 for the ground for sure, and probably 8 for the hot. There's not a lot to this. There's not a lot I got to do or modify. It's a pretty screeching good box just the way it sits. This is the last versions of this box that they ever made. I mean, all the stuff that we wanted to ever do, you know, it's got class A and class C, or class A, B, and C switching on it. C you use for AM, of course. And then you come around, you're gonna, you know, AB1 for sideband. It's got the ability to either have the fan on when you turn the amp on, which is the way I suggest that you run it, or they actually took and they moved the thermocouple over here to the side of the cabinet, and you can set it so it automatically turns on. The delay switch is on the back instead of out through the front. But we'll go over all of that once we get this put together. So give me just a minute. This is going to be a fairly short video because there's not a lot to do. I'm going to come in here and disconnect these 2 hots, disconnect the 2 grounds, pull these out, or the strain leafs out. We're going to replace them with rubber grommets. We'll go ahead and crimp and sweat on because this is going to have tension on it. We have to crimp. We can't just directly solder this because there is going to be tension. So we'll crimp and sweat on. So we'll crimp it and then solder it. A new plug on the wires. And we'll be back to test it and just run it through its little paces. So with the blink of an eye, it will be done. Okay, so let's go back down here to 1x. Let's actually start over here on the spectrum analyzer. And then we're going to immediately jump over and go to the input reflect watt meter. So this is the radio, just its bare footprint of the radio. Here's the amplifier in class AB1. Here's the amplifier in class C. That second order harmonic is below 47 dBs down. We know that from these numbers on the side of the scale there, 42 dBm down. So, but I want to point this out, class AB1, squeaky clean. Okay, so now let's come over here to the front of the striker, and we'll crop this up so we got the front of the striker, and then we've got our Bird 43 with a 5-watt slug in reverse. So let's show the pass-through tuner, otherwise the ability for the RF to go from the radio down through the amp. 1 1 1 1 1 1 1 1 1 1. Ooh, I'm gonna have to look at that. I didn't realize it was that high. I have to add me a cap. Let me show you what I got to tell you here. Show you what I got to tell you. I'm starting to speak like one of the people running for public office right now. This here, I got to add a cap here, going from here to here, because that's too high of a pass-through tune. Hold on a second. So this is where knowledge and experience comes into play. As soon as I seen that jump up, I was like, oh, hey, I know what I got to do. So we added this 30 picofarad capacitor here. Let's go up here and let's look at the front of our striker once again. Hello, 1 1 1 1. Hello, 1 1 1. Fixed. Okay. So while we're here, we'll do our input tune. Hello, hello, hello. Perfect input tune. Okay. So now we finally get to come over here. So we're in 1x. So let me show you radio drive. This is a derail striker, by the way. So your normal, everyday, out-of-the-box striker that's been modified will do about 90 watts. We have this thing turned up to the gills. Oh, about 125, almost 130 watts. But that in turn gets us this. 500 plus bird, and burying the thing off the chart. Now, before we jump off the 1,000-watt scale, I want to engage the dial-a-watt, and we're going to play with this knob here. So let's see if I can get this all framed up to where you guys can see it all. Here we go. So, with 120 watts going in, don't do this. Run the variable all the way open and run the dead key up and down on the radio. But I got to show you that it works. Dial-a-watt out. Doesn't make any difference. All right. Here's class C. Class AB1. It's actually class B. Okay, so all that being said, let's go up to 2x. So let me zoom you in here real quick, because I'm done touching stuff on the front of the amp. All of you that have watched any one of my YouTube videos where I've had to use the 2x, well, go. I got the shop door hanging open. I just had a bee fly in here. Oh well. All right, so between the 40 and the 60, you guys know, right here in the middle is 50, right? That's 1,000 watts, because all the way over here in the corner, or full deflection, is 2,000 watts. So 1,000, 12, 14, and over here is 16. So, amp is on. Here over 16, maybe almost 1,700 watts. So put it down into class C mode. 1 2 1 2. The advantage of going to class C is you can drive the amp a little bit harder. So what a lot of guys used to do back in the day is they would take the bias out. They'd like take this bar and that one and that one. They ground them out. Makes a Class C, and then allows you to drive the amplifier harder. I just got to switch. Class C, Class AB1. All right, let me slide the lid, which is a down and then forward motion. Let me slide the lid on this thing. I want to unplug it as I do this. And let's see, are our wires even hot? No. Wow, this might be the way to go into the future with these things. I'm going to have to order up a bunch of silicone wire. I just don't like using it outside the amp because it just doesn't put up with rub. Like this wire will put up a little bit more rub, but then again, this is almost 3 times the size of the wire that was in here. So these are crimped, soldered, and heat shrunk, by the way, this Anderson plug. So let me put this back together, get the screws in it, and then I'll show you how to run it from the front side. So like I was saying in the previous segment, there's a switch that's back here on the back of the amp, okay, that turns the fan on and off. Me personally, and I'm going to tell you a cautionary tale, this is based off of a lot of experience. This is an amazing amplifier. The only downfall to this amplifier is not enough, and I mean this seriously, that if you leave it on auto fan turn on, the fan will come on too late no matter what you do. The amp will already be too hot, and this thing will not be able to provide enough air for it to catch up with the amount of air load or the heat load that's already on the amp. Where if you have the fan on all the time, from when you turn the amp on until you turn the amp off, it can stay ahead of it. The heat sink on this thing, for the same number of transistors that's in the old school version, the old 8-pill, had 4 fans. This has got 1, and it's got to make all its airflow through a screen grill and then wrap around and make it out the back side. We would normally use this same size fan to cool 4 transistors. So the cautionary tale is always have the fan on. Here's your dial watt button, here's your preamp button. The preamp, even though we've got the upgraded transistor in this thing, it's still going to pick up more noise. It's going to create more noise in your receiver than actually being able to hear somebody farther away. Okay? So, with those 2 things being said to you, you're going to go into the universe. Mr. P, that's the guy that bought this thing, by the way. You're going to go into the universe armed with more knowledge. Don't hit this button. If you have a 100-watt radio, don't run this button. Always leave the button out. If you're on sideband, it's got to be in this position, which is AB. Okay? Back here, on the back corner, is a delay. So it's keyed up, and you see that delay. And we flip the switch here in the back for AM. So quick that is. This is your battery voltage, that's what BV stands for. And then over here is your RF relative power indicator. Hello, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. Battery voltage. Hello, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. All right. So now that we got all that worked out, hello, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. Keep in mind, 80 amps. This is an average meter. This is 8 transistors. You need a 200 amp power supply. And I would strongly suggest, if you're going to run this in your truck, we were talking about this on the phone just the other day, that you want to run big wire from your battery and your alternator, because you're already talking about doing the big 3, which is battery, wires, alternator. It's the big 3 in the Mobile. It's primary alternator, secondary thing is wire, and the third thing is upgrade your battery. The battery's, it's on the fence, but that's what they call the big 3. Alternator, battery wire or alternator wire batteries, right? I love the blue of this style. I love the blue. Not a big fan of having blue in the cab of anything when you're running down the road, but at night, just saying. Power wire's upgraded. You got the best transistors money can buy in a relatively neat little tight package that works really, really well. Just be mindful of your exhaust air temperatures and always leave it so that the fan is on when you turn the amp on. Don't ever run it with the automatic thermal. Okay? Because this thing will get so hot that it can technically melt itself down. I have seen many of these boxes come through here, and I open them up and there's parts laying all over on the inside of the amp because shit got so hot that the parts unsoldered themselves. So, leave the fan on. And I hear it every single time. Oh man, you know, a lot of the parts inside this amp come unsoldered. So I'm saying to the customer. The customer goes, well, it's got the automatic thing in it. I don't know why it couldn't catch up. The thermocouple that's in here doesn't turn on at a low enough temperature. It just doesn't. So have the switch up. So when you power it on, fan comes on. That's it, gentlemen. I'm done. This amp's ready to go off to its new owner, to a new home, away from here and away from me. I got one little thing I got to do. Oh man. For a second, for a brief second, I had a shocking moment here just a second ago. I thought, oh my God, am I out of stickers? I thought I was almost for a second. All right, man, enjoy. You're all set up with the BBI logo. On that note, big shout out to the Patreons. Thank you guys for supporting, showing support to the channel. And I honestly think this guy is one of the new subscribed members that I have. I think he's been part of the group for like 3 days. And he's already buying an amp, so. Shout out to the Patreon guys. MechMan, Bird, Coaxial Dynamics, XS, Pentalabs. Remember guys, with Pentalabs, you mention BBI at checkout or when you call them to purchase your tubes. With any and all tube purchases, just mention BBI and you get 5% off. Okay, on that note, I'll see you guys. Gentlemen, I am the biggest mud duck in Idaho, and I'll see you. Bye.